Whiskey Tango Charlie. We're in Waco, Texas, at the third largest whiskey bar in the country, the largest whiskey bar in Texas. So they taunt over 1,400 bottles of whiskey and bourbons. I've personally looked at some of them. It is mind blowing the amount of bourbon that they have in this establishment. It is a Saturday night. A lot happening here in Waco. The place is crowded. And I have a special guest with us today, my daughter, Tiffany. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so Tiffany has a little bit of bourbon experience.
Just a little.
Yeah, so she has helped us over the years with a lot of our social media. And when she was off at college, she would often hold her own tastings
Yeah.
with many of her college friends. So Tiffany, how did you do that? I mean, like, how did you enter into the bourbon experience with college friends? Like, how did that work?
For my 21st birthday, my best friends got me Maker's Mark because they knew that I was interested in bourbon. And I also got Wild Honey at the ABC store. One of the first times I ever went because it was very cheap. You know, didn't have a lot of money to spend. So I would mix those primarily with ginger ale, and I would often use bourbon to shoot when I was sick. That was primarily what I used it for outside of drinking it. And then it was always a conversation piece with a lot of boys that, you know, boys like to drink whiskey. It's not more so a women thing, especially at my age. So I would talk about it with guys a lot, and I would always name drop some bourbons that I knew, and they thought it was impressive. And I would always, you know, be able to strike up a conversation about things like Angel's Envy. They always loved when I say that, or Maker's Mark was probably the most well-known for people my age just because of the price point, and it's kind of iconic. So that's kind of my journey with it throughout college.
Awesome. So we're here. We've got a flight. The flight that we have in front of us right now is a barrel pick flight. So the first one here is a balconies, obviously right here from Waco. The second one they taunt as a Waco bourbon, but we know it from the foothills of Texas, which is Garrison Brothers, that we're very familiar with. And then we have it's 44. Did you
Creek something.
44? Like, not very familiar with it.
No, Texas.
But I'll grab some information as we get to that. And our fourth pour that we're going to jump into is the Yellow Rose from the Houston area that we also have some experience with. Charles was down in the Houston area and did a video from there that is soon to be published. So Tiffany, obviously we want to do a shock the palate.
Okay.
We'll do the shock the palate with the balconies, and it is a barrel pick. All of these are at cast strength. So let's get a nose. Picking up anything on that, Tiff?
It smells very sweet to me.
Sweet. So I have some corns. Obviously, the balconies with me and many of the cases has gotten really corny, very sweet.
I'm not getting like a wood or a cinnamon or anything like that.
Yeah, I have no woods. Very good,
Yeah.
very good choice. Let's go ahead and shock that palate.
That's interesting.
So typically we don't get the flavors right off on shocking the palate. I can tell that it is a very high proof.
Yeah, it very good quality. Tastes very smooth so far.
Smooth,
Yeah.
right? So Tiffany, when you got into the bourbon lifestyle, what appealed to that? Is it the conversation? Is it the sharing of the bourbon? Like what exactly was the bourbon lifestyle in college with that age group?
It's more so conversation. People think that it's very mature and definitely an acquired taste for the most part, especially you're just getting introduced to alcohol, you know, mostly just drinking hard seltzer or beer. So it's more attractive and appealing when you're able to talk to somebody about something like bourbon or whiskey because of how much goes into it and the different types of flavors and the palates that people have and the different price points is also a topic of discussion. So it's definitely more of a conversation piece more so than, you know, people aren't drinking it the same way that they would drink other types of alcohol in college.
So balconies right here in the Waco area, literally right down the street. We're in downtown.
Woo.
So when you say "woo," what is? Talk to me.
It was kind of like a rush of air that just went through my mouth, to be honest.
A rush of air. I've
Yeah.
never heard that described like that. So Charles and I, during our tastings, we typically have a lot of women that come to our tastings, and the women have a much better palate. So obviously, I'm going to lean on you
Okay.
quite often there for some of these flavors that are jumping out.
Yeah.
So when you say rush of air, describe that.
It was just a small sip. I didn't take a large sip or anything, but it engulfed my entire mouth. Like it got the roof of my mouth, it got the top of my tongue, got the sides of my mouth. It just kind of came really fast. And you know, you typically when you drink something, you taste it on your tongue and that's it. But this is like, I don't want to say spicy. I just want to say it takes you aback. It's definitely strong compared
and a barrel
to
strength.
yeah, compared to what I would be used to as a 22-year-old. But again, with it being smooth, it just tastes of good quality. It just feels good in your mouth compared to what I would typically buy for as far as bourbon goes.
All right, we're going to jump into our third sip here. So these are 3/4 ounce pours, very similar to what we do in our bourbon tastings. That is probably one of the smoother bourbons that I've had. It has a very long finish.
Oh,
I
yeah,
have
it's
it
still
in the middle of the palate.
Yeah.
Doesn't come to the sides, doesn't come to the front, but doesn't go very far back. So very middle
Really.
of my palate
Okay.
is where that finish is. No oaks,
No.
right?
Nothing
Very
woody.
sweet.
Yeah.
It's almost like a candy here with this balconies on this in this first pour.
I would say it's close to like a butterscotch, not so much caramel, but I believe he said this was the one that had, one of them had toffee, I believe. I could see this one being that, if I'm not mistaken, but this one definitely, it's still lingering in my mouth, which is definitely something that I'm not used to with the other bourbons that I've had. This is definitely the highest quality, highest price point bourbon I've ever tried. So it's definitely something to get used to, but I do like it. Definitely something to sip on, of course. But
Awesome. I'm going to cleanse my palate. A little bit of water. Smell the back of my hand. And so we'll jump into our Garrison Brothers. So again, Garrison Brother barrel pick. This is a 148 proof Garrison barrel pick. So very strong. Many of the Garrison Brother products are very strong. If you're following us, we just did a great video up there with Dan on the premises. Encourage you to go out there and take a look at that. Tiffany, let's go ahead and get a little taste of that. So I often like to get a little taste before we start to nose it.
okay.
Charles will tend to nose it to death as he
Yeah,
sits on the
noticed.
front porch.
Yeah.
But I like to have a little bit in my mouth when I'm nosing it. So
It connects well. This is definitely different.
yeah, very different.
Very.
I can also, I can smell some of the, we call it tails. So the heads and tails of the bourbon. So this smells like a little bit of the tails that is in it.
Okay.
To me, I can smell like the barrel almost, and I don't mean the oak part of it. I can smell like the talons in
I
it,
feel like I can see that
right?
or smell that. I say it's not sweet. It's definitely not sweet.
So,
It's hard to say.
so no spices jump out at me.
Yeah, I don't. It's. I would say it's almost on the opposite end of the spectrum from the last one.
All right, let's get another little taste.
This is not as strong.
So this is a 148 proof, which is much stronger than the first one. Yes, it doesn't drink like that.
It doesn't.
If you look at the legs, the oils.
Oh yeah, this
that are on
it drips a lot more.
Right. So, not as viscous as the first one.
Okay.
So I'm going to look at the first one again. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
So
That's
you can tell the oils. But this does not drink like 148.
No,
this is a great barrel pick. Let's get another third sip.
I can't put my finger on it.
Well, so I call that baking spice is what I pick up with those.
Okay.
Like a baking spice type, which is a lot of what your mother, my wife, would have in the kitchen. So baking spices, you pick out their nutmeg.
Okay.
You take like a nutmeg.
I wouldn't say I'm getting anything that would be more sweet. I'm getting more savory types of scents and tastes for sure.
Right.
If I had to rank it at this moment, I would say this first one is more appealing to me personally in terms of flavor. However, the consistency and the texture and the way that this drinks is just a lot easier for someone like myself who's not that used to the type of power that a bourbon would have in your mouth.
So bourbon is becoming very appealing to a lot of demographics. Now that you're out of college, you're entering the workplace. On your bourbon journey, are you seeing more people drink mixed drinks, or are they drinking it neat as we're doing it right now?
I would say mixed drinks. Neat is a little more on the mature side. I know people to drink whiskey straight as they would in a bar, but for the most part, just cocktails when it comes to like a Giglio or like the Manhattan that we were talking about earlier, or anything with berry in it. There was, raspberry, blackberry. That's how I personally would drink it. I know women to drink whiskey straight, but not to drink bourbon. I think it's just, although they are very similar, there's still enough of a difference to drink them in a different fashion.
Awesome. So again, cleansing our palate again, and smelling back of the hand. Get that out. So maybe a little sip. So this, I'm going to take a look at my phone. So the clarity of this,
Yes.
Tiffany, if you'll look at this, it doesn't have quite the clarity.
It's a little foggy.
Right? So this is a 44. I've never heard of this in my life,
It's a
but
Texas.
with 1,400 barrels, this is a Ranger Creek 44 rye. It's a Texas rye, right? And so obviously a barrel pick here. I look at this, the clarity of it is obviously unfiltered. I'm a rye guy. I'm going to tend to go with a little bit more of the rye thing, so I'm excited. First little taste of this doesn't quite appeal to me right off, but let's get the nose. Do you pick anything up on that, Tiffany?
I'm getting it. This one's more sweet than the last. I'm getting more of a caramel type of scent.
Lots of caramels.
Yes.
Right. And I don't get a lot of caramel on a rye typically.
Yeah, I don't think about caramel when I think of rye.
So I'm going to take another little sip. Now that, not very strong.
No, definitely not as strong.
Right, so I'm gonna look again here at the phone. So this is a very young. This is only 17 months. It's a 100% rye. So this is 100% rye, done in the spring. I don't see a. Yeah, it is a 93 proof. So this is the least amount of proof, unfiltered.
Definitely.
I'm getting some cinnamons. It's moving to the sides and the back of my tongue.
Okay.
Right?
Mine's definitely the back.
Right, and with ryes, I typically get it right towards the front.
I have it on my lips.
You have it on your lips.
The other ones I didn't.
Really?
Yeah. This one's on my lips and the back of my tongue, mainly. It's almost like it stings on those areas.
So third sip, obviously cinnamon.
Oh yeah.
You can get that very strong. You see that in the ryes.
It's different in the third
That
time.
is a great sipper, right?
Yeah.
I can sit on the front porch. I'm going to have to seek some of this out before I head back to North Carolina. Excellent pour. Never heard of this. We're going to do a little bit more research on that. And Tiffany, cleansing the palate.
Okay, last one.
Last one are the Yellow Rose. Charles visited this down in the Houston area. We do have a video on it. Charles sat down with the master distiller there. That video has not been published yet. So I'm pretty excited because I haven't tasted the Yellow Rose yet, but yet Charles has.
Okay.
So let's get a little sip.
Oh. Oh wow. That's completely different. That's
Yes.
almost refreshing.
So I'm getting a little peaty taste of this. This is almost like a peaty scotch to me.
Okay. What
Right?
would you compare that to for me?
Peaty is like a moss, like a earthy, got
Okay.
some earthy notes. I don't want to say dirt because
No.
it's not dirt,
No.
right?
Ooh,
So
that one stings as well. Very, very, very strong in the nose. Not as much in the mouth.
so this is much more to me like a scotch.
Okay. Yeah, this is incredibly different from all of them.
Right?
I can see the earthy, yeah.
The earthy taste in this,
Almost wood.
very enjoyable because I do enjoy a scotch. I'm not so much a peaty guy. Second sip, much smoother, right?
I would have to disagree. I think this one's very strong for someone like myself who's a beginner. I think the Scotch is a good reference because this is more, I almost want to say watery, not in the consistency or the flavor, but the way that it runs in your mouth is a lot more liquid. There are oils, but this is more, I can't even describe it. It's just more liquid feeling.
It's more liquids. So it totally coats my palate,
Oh yeah,
right? The entire palate
Yeah.
from front to back.
Yeah.
left to right.
That's what I mean. It flows more.
Yeah, it totally coats the palate. You can look at the legs on this thing, and the legs are extremely thick. Last sip.
Very wood.
So I'm picking up some corns in this, right? So this is also unfiltered as I look into it.
Really?
So if I said like a Halloween candy, like a candy corn,
Yes. I see what you mean.
right? So that third sip, give me a little bit more candy corn flavor.
Yes.
Last sip.
It's more distinct.
Wow, that's almost like a dessert wine.
Really? You think so?
Yes.
We have very different tastes.
And we do. So if, as you've heard me say in the past, if everyone enjoyed vanilla ice cream, it would be a very vanilla world. So Tiffany, we've enjoyed 4 pours here, 4 different pours in the 3rd largest whiskey bar in the United States.
And when you're my age, that's enough to deliver the message.